I'm here today with Tony Walker from Armalytix, and Tony has come back to the community to share how you can use Armalytix to get information from your customers far quicker and more efficiently than what you're currently doing. Say hello, Tony.
Hi, Simon. Hi, everyone.
Hello, Tony, and I can't wait to get started. I will give you a warm virtual round of applause, Tony, and away you go.
Thank you, Simon. So welcome. I'm Tony Walker from Armalytix, one of the founders of the company. I'm going to talk a little bit MTD, but try and make it relevant with technology and what I'll show you now as per my presentation. So let me just share a screen and get us going. And let's show that up. Right. Hopefully we have a slide on the screen for you all.
Yes, we do, Tony.
Thank you very much indeed, sir. Right. So I guess taking a line from Monty Python, but what has MTD done for you and what's next? Now, lots of words. I've underlined one word and some people will look at that and go, well, you just spelt that wrong, haven't you? There's actually a real meaning to that word. And there's two words that we kind of use interchangeably. One is digitization and one is digitalization. And I'm not trying to do an English lesson here, but digitalization is an important step and it's all about opportunity. And just to get you in context, digitization is like taking Dext where you use an analog entry, PDF of an invoice or whatever, and make it digital. But digitalization is saying the whole thing becomes digital in its process. And you've already adopted in many ways some of this, cloud accounting and its links to the VAT API and tax returns. So the important thing about digitalization is it actually provides you a value producing opportunity. So your business can change because of digitalization. And this has happened in many industries. So accounting is just an industry that's going through a digitalization process. So you all know this stuff, but effectively what we're saying is data collation is the next big thing for you guys, because ultimately you've got a practice management software, you've got cloud accounting. So a lot of the processes you were previously undertaking have to some extent been automated and providing a more efficient service, but you're still reliant on data coming in. Now, obviously we have bank feeds. There are some issues with those, as many of you will have seen, and some clients aren't using bank feeds. So getting the data is a challenge. And actually, if you go through that experience yourself as a client, actually extracting things from banks is not easy. And that's where we come in. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Data collection, next frontier for digital accounting and MTD. So we've used this MTD. What's the problem? Why is MTD a catalyst? Obviously, the tax man said that the reason for this is to make it easier to get tax right. And they've cited the fact that there were a lot of errors in the tax returns. Obviously, there's a wider question of, well, actually, there's an amount of money they think is on the table that hasn't been collected. I think the Office of National Statistics said it was £9.9 billion in 2017. So that's really the reason. But ultimately, MTD is really just down to the idea of using some sort of API to transmit information to HMRC. Now, lots of technology companies will come along and say, you have to have this. I'm not saying that. I'm saying there's an opportunity set here within MTD that allows you to do things differently and more efficiently. But MTD is for all these things, as you all are aware. So I've kept this sort of logic of MTM. So we're going to say MAD, making accounting digital. So part of it was to drive efficiency. You've invested in the software, whether it be cloud accounting or whether it be practice management software. And you as accounting professionals have got new processes which ultimately make your lives easier and allow you to focus on the more value add. So that's that opportunity set piece where saying by making things digital, making things efficient, you can move away from the number crunching elements and actually add value to your clients. Of course, big question in all of this is, are your clients any better? Are they more digital? So we'll call that MCD, making clients digital. So what do clients want? Well, they just want you to do a return for them and get things done. But they do want insight, advice, and guidance. They want to spend as little time either chasing the numbers, sorting out the numbers, or anything else. And of course, at the moment, there's an element of clients are wasting a lot of time trying to get information in the right format for people, which doesn't give you enough time to provide those advisory services that you'd rather do and they would rather have. So we want to make our clients digital. Well, how do we do that? As I said, this is about opportunity. MTD is a few years away for self-assessment. Interestingly, it is kind of as far ahead of us as MTD for Business is behind us. But just because something's coming up in the future doesn't mean you can't grasp an opportunity now and look at processes and say, how do I change my process to be more efficient, to be more accurate, and to be secure? As you know, self-assessment often is a very stressful time for accounting professionals, often because of the clients and the backloaded nature of that and getting all the information at the last minute. What can we do to help that? How do we change that behavior? So with the opportunity set of a change coming up, so regulatory change provides an opportunity, time to put disciplines in place that reduce stress and strains, and of course, disappointment. So where do we as Armalytix fit into this? So Armalytix is a platform that uses open banking that we can extract with the client's consent, bank information in a digital format. So it starts digitally, it's delivered to you in a digital manner. Use cases are allowing you to reconcile your cloud accounting software to make sure that the bank feeds haven't had any issues, whether they be because the client hasn't connected correctly or they actually do have issues in their data. And also for those clients that don't have bank feeds, you've got the data in a format which you can load into whatever platform you would like. So what I'll do now is I'll stop the presentation and I'll go into a demonstration. So what I'll do is I'll show you as an accountant how you make a request to your client using the Armalytix platform. I'll then show you what the client has to do. So there's the point here of making it efficient for the client. It's something they can do on their mobile phone, very, very quick process. And then ultimately the data that you get back and the format it comes in and how you use that. So no more ado on that. I will escape from here and just change a couple of screens. So now we're into the Armalytix platform itself. So it's cloud-based. There's no app to install on your side as there isn't for the client. So it's all a cloud-based journey. And this is where an accountant would make a request of their client. So what I'll do now is I'll just start that process. So unfortunately, I do have to type some things. So I'll use the top of my head for a few seconds. So we actually start the journey with an email. So we ask the client via email to do something, but no sensitive information is passed by email. You have a client, you ask them for their business. So you tell them which business it is you want the data for. Some of you will have larger practices. So you may have references that you use for your clients. And then you choose an option. In this case, we're going to do a transaction download. Those other reports are used largely in sort of KYC, AML checks of clients. So here we'll talk about the transaction download. Now, for efficiency, often the client's requests you're making are going to be on a cadence. So, a VAT return is quarterly. So you're going to ask for data in a quarterly manner. So actually the system can do that for you automatically. You can set up a quarterly request and all you do is set the end date of the first report. So for argument's sake, this client's VAT quarter ends on the 31st of January. And what it'll do is it's going to ask for data from 1st of November to 31st of Jan. That'll go out to the client does a request. And then in 3 months' time, another request will go to the client automatically. So we remove that admin nature of saying, well, I need to do that request every month, every quarter, every year. So that's that. Also, you can just do a one-off, for whatever reason, I just need some data. Could be a first time for a client. So you might look back and see how much data I can get, maybe 2 years worth of data to see that, their business is what they said it was and it operates the way we expected. In this case, what I'm going to do is just do a 3 months back. You obviously can select a custom date range and set, some random dates as you require. 3 months just means 3 months back from today. So I'll do that. We have a sort of a free text box that you can say to your client, Tony, please add, I don't know, I'm going to do Revolut and Wise. You can type whatever you like in here. And we're going to create and send that email to the client. We do have a function of reminders. So what happens when the mail goes to the client, after 3 days, we'll send a reminder if they haven't completed it. then after 5, and after 10. So we try and remove that sort of admin nature that you generally have with clients, which is I'm asking the same thing every couple of months. They don't do it, I have to remind them. So that's removing as much admin as possible. I'm just going to switch the reminders off. It stops me getting lots of emails, and I'm going to send that. So in terms of accounting practice, we've created this request at the top here at 9:41, which is now, and that's it. You don't have to do anything else. So what I am now going to do is a little bit take my life into my hands. I'm going to open my inbox on my mobile phone, which hopefully will work perfectly well. And the reason to do this on the mobile phone is that with the advent of banking apps, the journey is a little bit quicker for your clients on the mobile phone, because on the flip side, they've got their phone with them most of the time, and it means they can do this journey at any time. They don't have to go home and log on to their computer and spend time doing this. It's a couple of minute exercise you can do on your phone, lunch break, or whatever it is. So the reason why I've got it filtered on decimal is our accountants practice is called decimal point accounting in our test environment. So there is the email. So this is what we've sent to our client. So this is what you would be sending out. Obviously uses the client's name, reminds them that this is about decimal point accounting. So your practice is a report for HK. So that was the business I asked for using Armalytix, please add Revolut and Wise. Okay, I understood that's what my accountant want me to do. So all the client does is click get started. As I said, this is not an app. It's cloud-based as well. So they come into here and get started. So we're going to start from scratch. They have to create a password, and I'm an existing user. So I'm just going to type that in. Apologies for me typing. There we go, and log in. Okay, I've got that right. Right. So in GDPR terms, you tell people what you're going to do. So here, decimal point accounting have requested a transaction download for your business HK. There's the date range, and to prepare it, we'll gather the following information. So we're telling them what we're going to take. All the client needs to do is click continue. And those that are familiar with bank feeds will have kind of seen these pages already where you say, I need to connect a bank now. So you have a large drop down of banks. And many of you will be familiar. The only thing really of note that's missing from here is Metro Bank, because they, in their infinite wisdom, have decided not to do open banking. And let me just find what I said I was going to do. So I'm going to do Revolut. So these are my real accounts. So hence the reason why I'm choosing smaller transactional accounts. So what it will do now is it will look for the logon to Revolut. Now, in this case, I've got the app. So it'll open the app, fingerprint in this case for me. If it hasn't got an app, it will just open the browser-based login script that you'd normally see. So I'm going to just go authorize those accounts. So that's how open banking works, as a consent model. So I'm giving my fingerprint as my consent. And now they're going to send that information back to Armalytix. So 3 months data is now being passed, hence the little donut of doom in the middle. And there we go. So now we have 3 accounts of Revolut. And importantly, I can keep adding banks. So if your client has got 3 or 4 banks, a bit rare, but they can add as many as they like. So I'm going to add the Wise account. And just shows you a little slight different journey. So that's TransferWise. I'm going to connect there. Again, I've got the app. So in this case, it just opens straight up. I don't need to do that. Armalytix would like access. So all they do is give access and a fingerprint to authenticate, and that's the journey done. So those sort of neobanks or payment systems, whatever they're called, are quite quick. For a regular bank, say a Lloyds or a Barclays, all that happens is you just select the accounts like I did on Revolut and share those. So what's happened now is I've got 3 Revolut accounts, 2 TransferWise accounts. So that's now 5 accounts with 3 months data. All the client needs to do is continue and create the report, which is basically getting it ready to send to you as the accounting professional. And they have the option to look at it if they wish to. It's just a list of transactions. Obviously, what we want them to do is share the report with you. Once they've done that, that's it, they're done. So I wasn't really timing that, but with me talking, that's taking me a couple of minutes. And I've connected 2 banks with 5 accounts and 3 months data. And that's now being passed to you into the portal. So what I'll do is I'll just come off the phone. I'll go back to the portal.
Tony, just while you do that,
Yep.
David's asked a question. How far back can you go? Can Can you go back 2 years, 1 year? How far back?
It's like one of those, how long is a piece of string question, unfortunately. I think the general rule of thumb is banks are generally allow you 2 years data. There are exceptions to every rule. So some of the banks allow you 5 years. So it's a bit of a hit and miss. And a couple of banks only give you, I think, 13 months. So if you look at, I think it's Handelsbanken does 13 months, for whatever reason they decided. But I think broadly, if you think a rule of thumb of 2 years, credit cards are a slightly different beast. So I'm expanding the question slightly. They have a lesser set of data. They generally up to 6 months. So normal kind of transactional accounts like Revolut and TransferWise, they're bank accounts as well. They give you at least 2 years. Credit cards, if you think about sort of 6 months, is probably a reasonable expectation.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
No worries. Right. So I am back into the accountant's world. And in the production environment, what you get is a little bing, an email that says your client has done his journey. And what I'm just going to do is just refresh the screen. No data is passed by email. It's only held in the platform here securely. So this request was the one at the top. You'll kind of have to take my word for it, but that's now 9:45. I've got data available. So what I'm going to do is two things, because I talked about two use cases. So the first use case is really the cloud accounting software. And I'm familiar with Xero, so I'll say Xero, but there's obviously other ones. In the dashboard, all I'm checking here is on the date of the 10th of Feb, are they the balances that I have in Xero? If they are, well, that's good. The bank feeds have worked perfectly and there's no issues. That's clearly not all the time. So if there's a difference, you're like, oh, okay, that account looks different. We've obviously got the data here, which in a sort of PDF form, but start off with, you're just checking that this is correct compared to what you have in the dashboards. Of course, what's of interest is a download of a CSV. Now, we do have a couple of ways of doing this. If you think about it, we can give you a CSV with everything in it. That's kind of useful for audit purposes. You've got one file with 3 months data for that client in. Obviously, some of these things you're going to upload into, whether it be Xero or QuickBooks. All these do is for a Xero file or a QuickBooks file, it takes, in this case, 5 accounts. It creates a file for each account and then just gives you the fields you need for those uploads, which is broadly a data description and an amount. What I'm going to do is download the CSV, which is the whole thing, and just show you that as a kind of show you what the output kind of looks like and what information we get. So if you give me a second, I'll just open up that there. So here we go. I'll bring that onto the screen. So this is real data. I appreciate it's going to be a bit small for a second. So if you just allow me to expand that to a size that you can probably read it. And there's not much point taking too many screenshots of this. These are Revolut and TransferWise accounts that have like 50 quid in them. So one thing just to show you on here, Revolut. So I've got Revolut current account. I've got a TransferWise current account. We've just normalized everything. It's all in the same format, all very simple to use. There were 5 accounts. And the reason for that is at the bottom here, you'll see there's a dollar entry, there's a euro entry, a couple of euro entries. So for Revolut, TransferWise, we've got different currencies. Things that are interesting. So you've got the description, as you'd expect. There's some sort of date, time, currency, and then the signed amount. And then obviously a running balance. So simple output that you can use and check that the data, either use this data to upload and create a return, or to take the data that's already in the cloud accounting software. And let me go back. So that's the end of the sort of demo side in terms of how you use Armalytix to make a request to the client, how simple it is for the client to complete that journey and get the data back to you, and the output that you get for you to use. So what I'll go back to now is just play from the start. Not from the start. 1 second. And it's not death by PowerPoint here, so we will finish PowerPoint very shortly. So let's state what the problem is. What's the problem today? Data collection. That's all you need. You want accurate data. You want it to be simple for both participants, you and the client to do. I think repeatability is important. You're moving towards a more quarterly cadence for virtually all of your businesses. Let's make it easy to do that. So that's a fundamental question for you guys is, are you doing this today? Well, yes. Do you request bank statements? I would say 80 to 90% of accounting professionals do. You want, what happens? I ask for it. I chase for it. Client sends the wrong things, accidentally or deliberately, chase the client again. If it's a PDF, scan it, do something with it, manual entry, or you get a CSV and they've missed something out. And finally, you get the data. Well, let's digitalize this process. The data sitting in a bank that you want, use Armalytix to access that data and with their client's consent, send it to you. Never think about bank statements again. We try to remove as much admin as possible, automate the repeating request. Let's get the reminders out to the clients, get in a format that you can use. Importantly, there's a client service element, but it is easy for the clients to do. I mean, if you ask a client to download 3 months bank statements from most accounts, actually you go into the account and have to download each one. If you've got, in our instance, 5 accounts, that is going to take a period of time. Here it has taken, as you saw on the demonstration, which was live, probably 30 seconds per bank. Overall, maybe it took me 2 minutes to get 5 accounts and 3 months data. And importantly, get back time in your diary so you can focus on the value add services. So our proposition is that data collation is the final frontier of digital accounting to make that whole process digitalized. Liberate your day, provide great client experience with Armalytix. My contact details are there. Hopefully there are some questions, and I'll stop sharing the screen now.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tony. Yes, we've got some questions, not least the most important question for lots of people. David, we've got one in from Paul. Thank you, Paul. David's asked about cost. How much does it cost?
Well, I suppose, yeah, it's an easy and difficult question. It's a scale question. So it's a software. We have a subscription model. When you pay a subscription, we include a number of reports in that subscription. I guess the more you pay, the cheaper the reports come. Kind of a logic, economical argument. Worst case, they are £5 a report. So a report means your client's just done that. He's given you five accounts, 3 months worth of data. The larger you are, the cheaper that becomes. I think that's probably the best way of describing it. I think that you always think about numbers and go, "What's a number? I'm not sure if I know. Is that a good, bad, or indifferent number?" The proposition is the fact that you're getting 2 things. You're getting time. Well, time has a value. How much time does it save you doing this? Certainly most clients are saying it's taking me a couple of hours a month or a week to do some of these things. It's now not. Okay, well, that has a value. And the efficiency, the accuracy actually is the one that a lot of people are saying, well, you know what? I don't know whether that data is correct. So now I do know the data is correct. I'm more comfortable with it. It is a value add service. I'm happy to pay that.
Thank you. Stuart's asked, how easy is it to set up? So at the beginning of the demonstration, you've gone in obviously, and yeah. So do we have to ID?
Very, very, very complicated. As you noticed by all I've just said, it's all about simplicity. So we have an online form. All I need from you as an accountant is I need to know who you are. I need to know your logo and your company name, because then we can brand up the journey. I think it probably takes a client about 2 minutes to do the setup form, because it is literally your logo and client name. We then set up your users. I would suggest that probably 20, 30 minutes of training, because I created the report. There are about 2 other buttons you can push on the system, because we're trying to keep it as simple as is humanly possible. And then you're up and running. So because there's nothing to install, there's nothing to integrate with, it's a cloud-based. We give you a URL and a log on. We'll give you some training and you're off. So, realistically, from the point which you say, hi, I'd like to join, it's like, well, if you fill out the form, we could probably do the training the same day and have you set up and going in the same day easily. There's nothing difficult with it.
So there's no money laundering requirements or passport photographs or anything like that in order to get you up and running. Excellent. Thank you. And then Paul's asked, is it possible to set up a permanent access rather than asking clients to get the data each time?
So that we get into the more esoteric land of open banking. So open banking, as many of you will be aware, is a 90-day reauth problem. It is a problem. It's the wrong periodicity. Whoever decided 90 days wasn't thinking about VAT. So no, the journey will look the same each time as it stands. So what we've done, I kind of flashed through it at the end. When the client went, I'll send the report to you, there's actually a screen that comes up and says, that's it, you're done. In the fine print, that's in the line below that, it says, we've now disconnected from your bank. Because from a security standpoint, I'm not going to get back on that question in any time soon, or I don't know I am. because we know the authentication lasts only 90 days. So you're like, you know what, we'll just cut it. And then next time the client comes in, they'll do exactly the same journey. So there's a benefit there of actually the behavior is the same each time. So, you know, Pavlov's dogs, if you get them to do the same thing each time, it gets a bit easier because we see that the authentication is a problem. Now, some of you will have read that the regulators have said we should look at this, you know, open banking authentication model. That's great. And what they've suggested is actually the right direction. So yes, to that question, it would become more like well, when you log in, it goes, oh, you've got these banks that are connected. Do you want to keep those, or are there any other ones? That's all well and good. I think my concern would be a little bit that the banks aren't keen on open banking. Because if you think about the premise is, me, Mr. Pundit, I can get my own data and do something with it. Well, the banks aren't keen on that. They think it's their data. So whilst the regulator said you should change, they haven't kind of mandated, they haven't put a deadline. And arguably, the banks will sit there and say, well, we're more restrictive because we've got 90 days and you're allowed to be more restricted than regulator. You're not allowed to be less. So I don't know the sense of whether the banks are going to go, whoopee, let's change our consent model. Now, I would think that, you know, the examples I gave of Revolut and TransferWise, they might, because they'll say, well, that's funky and new. Let's just do that. It's better for the client. Will the big banks do it? I would be skeptical. So I think there might be a time before the regulator goes, okay, we said we should do this. No, we're changing that to you will do this, and then we'll have a timeline. So I worked in banking before, so I kind of know how regulators think. They give you a line, and if you say, well, I'm more restrictive than that, so I can stay here. If you're less, you have to move up the level. So I think that was a very long answer to that question, but broadly, the client's journey is the same each time, because at the moment the consent model is such that we're likely not to have consent. It may well change in the future depending on whether the banks adopt the new regulation or not.
Okay, thank you. And then Paul has a supplementary question. We ask initially for dates from A to B, but when we realised we should have asked for C to D as well, if we have to access within the 90 days, we could just get it again. If not, we have to ask again for another report.
Yes. I suppose that the answer to that one is simply yes, you would have to answer another report. There is a kind of nuance. Well, if I sent Simon a date range of, you know, December to February and he hasn't done it yet, cancel it.
Oh, okay, I've got you.
And then create a new report request that is longer.
Okay.
Yeah. I think what we found with some accountants, what they've said is like, yeah, I only want 3 months, but what I generally ask for is 6 months because I'm just like, just in case.
Yeah. So as long as you've got it, you can do as you like with it, basically.
Correct.
Thank you. Paul says thank you. Claire has asked about integrations. So once you've got that data extracted into a CSV, am I right in saying that it's just anything that will accept a CSV import, whether that be Xero or QuickBooks or any of the accounting software that'll accept that CSV? It's just a question then of uploading it.
Correct. So we're not per se integrated. What we've got is an output that, you know, QuickBooks Sage Xero recognize. So we've got those individual files with the shrunk down data fields that only you need for those uploads. We are in the process of talking with practice management software because clearly, you know, we are part of practice management, as in it's a process, isn't it? It fits in somewhere. So, you know, there's I think Pixie have done some basic implementation. I've started to talk with more, but the idea is, I think that's where we sit. We're just a piece of software that you use to do a specific task, but we're not integrated. You know, to some extent, it's simple because it's cloud-based. It just sits there, it gives you an output, and you just go and use that how you use it. It would be good if it was embedded in a process because it gets it used more. But broadly, all the accountants have found it just standalone. I've got an output I use. That's great.
Excellent, thank you. And then Chris has asked, how do you get clients buy into using this technology? That's
a fantastic question. I suppose you can flip that around the other way for Chris of like, well, how did you get them to use Xero? Yes, there is a hurdle. I mean, you've shown them something new. I guess this is a sales process, isn't it? I mean, you want your clients to behave a certain way. Well, you kind of have to educate them. So there is a hurdle. You're going to have to tell them, I want you to do this. Now, some people have used the big stick. And I like the big stick approach, which is it's going to cost you more if you don't do this. Because if I'm going to have to bloody work my way through, pardon my language, a lot of PDFs and whatever else, that's taking time, and time is money. If you do it this way, I can charge you less. You know, that's the carrot and stick approach. There is education. Any new technology, you have to tell people why it's there. Why is it there? It's not just about you, the accounting professional. I think there is an element of it's making my life more efficient because I've got accuracy, security, and simplicity. But client, this is easier for you. You know, I used to chase you for a bank statement and you went, oh, I've got to log in at home. It takes me half an hour and I forgot the password and whatever. You know, okay, now you're going to do a journey you can do on your mobile phone and it takes 2 minutes. Do you think that's better for you? Yeah. So I'm not going to hide from the fact you have to educate people to do new things. They don't naturally do them.
Yeah. For me at Greenstones, there's if you're not careful, there's an assumption because it's cloud-based and it's technology, and I am comfortable with that technology. There's an assumption that the client's going to be comfortable with that technology. Whereas very often, there's an example with a piece of receipt-based processing software where the team couldn't get the client to use it. Yeah. And it's like, you're nuts. If Mick knew how to use it, he would be all over that. Yeah. So the next time Mick came into the office, I went into the meeting room and physically showed him how to do it on my face. It literally took 2 minutes, and Mick's face was like, so I've not got to bring all these receipts in ever again. It's no, Mick, you just take, basically it's a photograph on you. Yeah. And that's all it was. And it's just sitting down with them and either over Zoom or whatever, physically, if you can, just show them the first time and then away they go.
Yeah. I think there's an education outreach, which is, you know, communicate with your clients, email, obviously, WhatsApp, whatever it is, and say, look, I'm using this process. This is why. Maybe a screenshot of the mail they receive, because there is a mail with a big red button, which is a bit of a, you know, maybe a red flag to some people. But I think you know your clients. You've got some people who are evangelists and just do things because you've told them to, or they like technology. And there are some that are painful, and those are the ones that probably, to Simon's example, you know, it's like you get them in and go, here's how you do it. This is going to make your life and my life easier.
Yeah, and there's also obviously, because it being banking related as well, there's always this fear that whatever I press, somebody's going to be able to run away with all of my money. But excellent, thank you. So Mark has just popped the contact details in the chat box for Tony. So if you, or when you would like to speak to Tony about how to take the next steps and move this forward, then email Tony on sales@armalytix.com and obviously mention the Accountants Mastermind so Tony knows where you come from. I've got a couple more questions. So if you've got any other questions that you would like to ask Tony, please pop them in the Q&A box and I will gladly ask them for you. So Kieran's asked, is the software cost effective for a small number of clients?
That's a good one. It's like, you know, we have people who have like 10 clients and use the platform. So that would answer yes, because your time is still your time. And all that happens is the bigger the practice you are, the reports get slightly cheaper, but your overall proposition of, am I saving time doing this, which you as the client has to decide, does this actually save me time? Or are my clients so perfect and do everything I ask when I ask with all the right information, then I don't need to solve that problem. But most people do have to solve the problem. So yes, it works, you know, no matter the size. And I certainly, some of you will have seen, we've put some announcements out of clients, and we have clients that have got, you know, as I say, 10 customers and they use the platform. We've got clients with thousands of customers using the platform. So it fits either end of the spectrum.
Thank you. And then who's asked, can you give some practical applications for accountants to use the software?
Yeah, so I think we touched on it a little bit in sort of my waffle. So the first one is, as the world moves towards cloud accounting, then, you know, we're all going to use the phrase bank feeds. That's fine. My comment on bank feeds would be, cloud accounting software is great. It doesn't do everything brilliantly, and it doesn't really do a great job of bank feeds. And that's not entirely their fault. The banks themselves aren't designed to be real time in quite the way that are expected. So there are issues with the bank feeds. Now, I don't know what stat to use here. I'll make one up. You know, 90% of the accounting population say, yes, there's a problem with bank feeds. 10% probably haven't looked properly, would be my argument. But there are, you know, and most people will nod at this point, you know, there are missing transactions. That's the difficult one, because you don't know what you don't know. And there are duplication that occurs. So yes, the first use case is to say, I've got bank feeds, but I want to check that before I push the button and say VAT return or annual return or whatever it is you're doing, is that data correct? And then snapshot of data from us, check the balances off. Happy days if they all match. If they don't match, then you've got a list of transactions that we know from the bank, because that's where it's come from. And you've got what's in Xero or QuickBooks or Sage and go, okay, I'll figure out where the difference is. So that's use case one. Use case two would be, okay, I don't have bank feeds. Okay, so how are you doing that? I've got a PDF and then I use some sort of OCR software, or I manually enter it. I've heard a few times, you're like, really? Okay, that's an easy use case. I think one of the clients said to us is what they do when they get a new client on board, they just do a snapshot of as much data as they can get. Because ultimately a client comes to you and says, oh, this is what my business looks like. Here's my annual returns. And you kind of go, okay, that feels fine. Or is it, a money laundering question? Or is it like you do millions of transactions and you're like, actually, you know what, you said you were I don't know, you sold cars and now you seem to be doing 4,000 transactions a day. I'm like, that's a different proposition. And does Xero match up, or does the accounting? So people have used it as an onboarding tool, just say, let's get as much data as we can to get a sense of what this looks like.
Yeah, and there's two. Yeah, so from my perspective, from the accountants, there's three uses which you've just picked. So checking what Xero or QuickBooks is importing, and I'm amazed at how often there's a credit, particularly with credit cards, for whatever reason, the figure doesn't match what's actually been paid that goes out. So checking that is definitely for whatever reason. When you click the connect the bank account on Xero, and it opens up another browser on the internet, and it goes off into this world, and then you've lost the connection, etc. I think the method that you use in order to get that approval is far easier than the online method that the rest of them use. And then obviously you've got the what should we say, the people that don't use Xero, full stop, end of story, and extracting
bags and boxes.
That's right, into an Excel spreadsheet, CSV file, blah blah blah, in order to be able to use that data is a massively more time efficient than sitting there and typing in bank statements, or even sending those bank statements to one of the receipt processing people and then them convert it into a CSV and then it come back, etc. So it's just
I think you did a better job of selling that than I did, actually.
I'm saying exactly what you're saying, Tony, just in an accountant's language rather than in the IT world. So we've got one last question then before. Oh no, I've done Claire's question. So that's all the questions that I've got. I'll just check the chat box and the Q&A box. Yeah, that's answered all of those questions. Is there anything else that you'd like to share, Tony, that you'd like to share before we disappear?
No, I think too many people have spoken about MTD and try and sell things. Admittedly, I've got some elements of that. But the reality is it's an opportunity set to look at the business process. And, I think regulatory change, everybody goes, oh, God, something's changed. Like, yeah, but flip it. Change is an opportunity. And I think what we're trying to say here is ultimately, if you haven't got data, you can't do a process. So get the whole thing digital from start to end. Life is sweet.
Excellent. And Tony's contact details, as I mentioned earlier, are in the chat box. So just cut and paste the sales at armalytix.com and email Tony, and Tony will get you set up and away you go. Thank you, Jeff. And thank you, Tony, Jeff says. So brilliant. So thank you very much for coming along and sharing. The webinar and whatnot will go up on YouTube and in the Facebook group as well. So if you've got any questions, if you lay in bed tonight and you think, oh, I wish I'd asked that, then please pop them on the comment section and I'll make sure that Tony answers those for us. So thank you, Tony, for coming along. Thank you to everybody that's come along and asked questions, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Hey, Simon. Thank you all.
Cheers, Tony. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching this video with Tony from Armalytix, all about how you can get bank data from your clients far more efficiently. As always, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel so you get notified the next time we upload a video. And if you have any comments or questions, post them in the comment section below the video and we will gladly answer them. On the screen now, you'll see the next two videos we recommend you watch to inspire, challenge, and support you to run a better accountancy practice.